So that extra 9,000 or some change was to bring it to
Have a
that full
large
amount.
agenda tonight.
All right, we're good.
What about our missing member? Is she gonna be on there?
She's currently on.
Oh, we just can't see her.
Zoomed.
No, she's right here.
Okay.
I can see her on the computer here.
Does she have-
Not her, but her name.
Okay, it's 6:30 by real time, so we'll start tonight's meeting, July 1st, 2025, of the Laconia Planning Board. And I would ask that the roll call be taken.
In attendance tonight, we have Dave Ouellette, Rich McNeil, Councilor Bruce Cheney, Mike Delavecchia, Chairman Charlie St. Clair, Amy Levisick, Planning Director Rob Mora, Assistant Planning Director Tyler Carmichael, and I'm Savannah Brunel, the Recording Secretary.
And we also have Gail Ober with us via Zoom.
Can you shift it now if she's here, actually?
And Gail, can you please announce that you're here and who's in the room with you? Okay,
That's good to know.
perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion to accept the the minutes from the previous meeting. From somebody.
So moved.
A second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand.
It has to be a roll
Has to
call
be a
vote.
roll call.
That's right, Gail. Thank you.
So, we'll start off with Dave Ouellette. Yes or no?
Yes.
Rich McNeil.
Yes.
Councilor Bruce Cheney.
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia.
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair.
Yes.
Amy Levisick.
I have to abstain because I was not here.
Sounds good. And Gail Ober. Perfect. Thank you. That motion carries.
You gonna do that every time, or is Savannah?
Every time.
Because Savannah needs practice at calling names out, you know? Like that.
She's getting on-the-job training right now.
That's good to know. Okay, so we're moving on now. Before we move into everything, I've been made aware of a presentation that's here tonight, and we're going to have a relatively drawn-out meeting tonight. So his presentation, I understand, is going to be relatively short?
Yeah.
Okay, so without objection from the board, I'd like to move, I don't think we have to vote on that.
No.
I'd like to move on the presentations 8.1 to the head of the agenda. Any objection to that?
No.
Okay, so without objection, we'll go ahead and do that right now. So, if somebody, this is
This is the Housing
Th-
Redevelopment Overlay District.
right, proposed housing district rewrite, actually. So, if somebody's here for that, if you would announce who you are and where you're from.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Ethan Wood with Newman, Cheney and O'Neill. I'm not here on behalf of any specific client, but as per our last meeting, I noted that this specific section of your ordinance could use a rewrite. I think staff has done an admirable job. I would recommend that you all approve it, as I do think it will function in the manner that the original district was intended, and it will likely help alleviate some of the housing issues that have been brought up at previous meetings. So, again, I would absolutely recommend that you approve it as staff has written it.
Okay, but we're not gonna do that tonight, right?
So actually, what I would like is, so, I don't know if everybody has had a chance to look over the proposed language that we had, but we had a Housing Redevelopment Overlay District. Nobody's ever used it since it was adopted back in 1975, I believe. So what we did is we made it a conditional use permit. We made it similar to performance zoning, utilizing an innovative land use control. But we did something different with this. We added in criteria to limit it to a certain degree. So we limited the density that you could have, the structure height you could have. And then we also required that 20% of the residential units that were developed needed to be workforce housing units, and that they need to be deeded as such. At least 2 or 20%, whichever is greater. And then we also added in there
Parking requirements.
parking requirements and minimal dwelling sizes, that we don't have anything outlined in the zoning ordinance. We wanted to make sure that if we were creating workforce housing units, they were at least livable to a certain size. So we made that 400 square feet. We also added in there, as most of these lots are from smaller older developments that if you were utilizing this CUP and using and that project was affecting more than one lot, you would have to merge the 2 lots or 3 lots, however, to make it more conforming. So that was our intent with that. And then we also added in that a dark sky compliance, that we were worried about lighting, especially if you start adding more residential units, that we were making sure that these units were dark sky compliant, because we don't normally do that with our site plan regulations for residential developments.
So, these changes aren't retroactive, I take it?
No, somebody would have to come forward with a new project today to utilize
Okay,
this.
and if, and you want us to vote on it tonight?
I'd like you to move it forward to a public hearing for next month.
For next time, okay.
Yep.
So the earliest we could vote on that would be next week, or excuse me, next month, or in fact go to September potentially, possibly.
Yes.
That'd be 2 months.
I would, what was it, it is, what's the August meeting
Wait.
is August
August and September.
10th?
5th.
5th?
Nope, 5th.
I'd like it scheduled for a public hearing for August 5th.
That's
That way
correct.
we can have everything noticed to the public and give everybody a chance to review everything, and if there's any feedback, we can capture
But
that.
there's no immediate rush that doesn't have to be voted on, and it could be in fact voted on in September?
Yeah, that's
potentially.
absolutely true.
Okay. We don't need a motion on that, do we? No, because we just made the presentation. But do we need to schedule a public hearing now? Do you want us to do that? Is that something we need to do?
I think it would be nice just to make sure that, just to have a motion, just to say that we acknowledge that we'd like to schedule for public hearing at August 5th planning board meeting.
How about if I just say it without objection, and we just,
Okay.
any objection to that from anybody? Gail, do you object to that?
I'd like to see the current ordinance. I kind
Well,
of
that,
wanted to.
yeah, and you can do that, Gail. We're not voting on this tonight. We're just
Oh, okay.
scheduling the public hearing.
No, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So without objection, we'll have that public hearing
Yep. We'll make sure it's
scheduled for next month,
posted and announced.
and potentially voted on then, and also September, so, okay.
And the current language and the proposed language are also on tonight's
Tonight's
agenda
agenda.
as a link for a file.
All right, so Gail will have access to that, as does everybody else. Okay, thank you, Ethan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
You can hang around if you want.
I'm happy to sacrifice my seat for someone else.
Okay, now we're gonna go back to continued public hearings. So this is 6.1 zoning ordinance amendment 235-41 residential accessory uses. This is a proposed amendment to the short-term lodging ordinance to provide better defined performance standards and special exception process. Who's doing that?
We already presented that last month.
Yeah, and we had the,
We amended some of the language, so we wanted to
is
schedule
the
again,
public-
and this is the public hearing.
this is
for
the
that.
public, oops, sorry. Oh, I see it right there, okay. So, is there anybody here that would like to speak on that? I'm sorry I'm out of zone here, but anybody like to speak on that? Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, there's somebody, thank you.
John Hildreth.
Thank you.
I'm in Ward 1, Laconia. And I am hoping that the language would take out any grandfathering that was in the original language that ultimately can possibly grandfather a residential unit to be used as short-term rentals in perpetuity, regardless of the zone. And I'd just like to ensure that that wording is gone.
Any questions from anybody? Okay, thank you, John. Anybody else? This has, been a hot topic with residents in the city about short-term rentals. Okay. I'm not gonna vote on that tonight. No. We are gonna vote on it?
Well-
Is everybody ready to vote on this?
I'm not, I have some,
Okay.
Okay, I didn't think that was happening. Is there a rush for that tonight?
I thought I was under the impression that city council wanted that back.
Well, knowing city council. is-
Statutory changes
Yeah.
that forces some of this, as I understand it. All that said, I do have one or two questions.
Go ahead.
The first question I have is, my notes show me that we discussed, or maybe I brought up and nobody heard, but in M3, after C, I thought we were gonna have some language about contract, so that the short-term rental person had to provide written, as it were, a contract stating they're gonna meet all the requirements and whatever have you. And the reason I say that is enforcement.
So we do have that in there, that's under 5E.
Okay.
A copy of the current rental agreement for the property that includes all provisions of the city's short-term lodging and noise ordinances verbatim and for all tenants to acknowledge.
Okay.
We also require that up above in 3I brackets 3, which is for the special exception. So in order for them to submit an application with a special exception, they also have to provide their rental agreement as well, their proposed rental agreement. So we do require that.
The other question I have, if I may.
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Chairman. As a result of recent occurrences, it appears to me as though, regardless of what we write here, ZBA can change that.
No, ZBA can't change any of this. Somebody could go to the zoning board and request a variance
Well,
to
that's what I-
deviate from that, but there's nothing that we can do to prohibit that.
That's, I guess, what I was asking. Despite what we write here, they can grant a variance, and
When it comes to a special exception, I'm not entirely sure they're able to grant a variance for that
No,
portion.
but if they're requesting a variance
For the
an
use
aspect
itself.
of,
But not these
Correct.
rules,
but not,
not the rules. You can't get a variance on these rules.
there must be, because we have a place around the corner from me that has a out-of-state resident.
they get a special exception for that because it's not their primary residence.
I guess that's what I was asking. So,
Right.
all of these rules can be changed by special
Thi-
exception,
We wrote this
in an individual case.
in here regardless of special exception or not needing a special exception, it would have to be their primary residence.
Right.
So that wouldn't have been allowed regardless under this new ordinance.
Okay, it was allowed under the old?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else, is everybody comfortable with voting on this tonight? Because I don't want you to feel rushed. Gail?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I just wanna make the point that, as far as I know, any planning board decision can be appealed through the variance process to the ZBA, and then it would go through all the legal procedures, regardless of what, that's what ZBA is. They are the planning board appeal process. So, but I'm fine with this. It's a good ordinance, it's a good rewrite.
Go ahead.
Question. Rob, based on Mr. Hilder's question, with the way that this is written, is there a possibility that something could be grandfathered back to, you heard his question, and I don't know if that was addressed, if he received an answer.
I believe we.
So we took out the language that he was specifically referring to. That language is no longer in there. However, when it comes to a special exception or any variance that was granted, as long as the use has been continued to use, unfortunately, our hands are tied when it comes to the state and the court's ruling that as long as you're continuing to use that use, you're good to do that. But we have taken out that specific language that he was referring to, which was in the prior ordinance, which kind of expanded that. Now we're just leaving it up to what the jurisprudence is and has been on uses when it comes to special exceptions and variances. So we have reduced that.
Thank you.
So I guess, gentlemen, this all is pretty common sense stuff here, but the big question I think a lot of residents have is, what is enforcement gonna be like when people don't go by these rules? Because some of the complaints that have come to my attention, and I believe to some of the counselors, is that some of the people are not following the rules, whether it's trash or cars parking in where they're not supposed to park, or noise, all the usual complaints. Is that,
We can still take enforcement action on all of those as it's written in that ordinance.
we can or we will?
We can, and we do now, but people need to come in and file a complaint for us to take action.
Okay, so that's.
More
that's-
often than not, people don't want to file a complaint and don't call us.
Would they call the police, or if it was a
So
noise problem?
if it's a noise ordinance issue, they need to call the police department, and it needs to be annotated through them. Because we don't handle the noise ordinance aspect of it. But the police department informs us if they have an issue with that, if it's a short-term lodging item. And then we can keep track of it and and take action on it.
Charlie?
Yes.
Gail also has a comment too.
Okay,
She's good.
okay. So if,
Chairman?
yes,
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I've read this. Can we go back for just a second about a contract? This talks about the owner must submit a copy of their proposed rental agreement with an application for special exception.
Yep.
What does someone who doesn't need a special exception provide?
They still have to, that's in the next section down, they still have to provide that. So we have it written in there, if you need the special exception, then you need to provide it, and if you don't need the special exception, you still need to provide it. That's the,
I-5E. A copy of the current rental agreement for the property that includes all the provisions of city's short-term lodging and noise ordinances verbatim for all tenants to acknowledge.
well, I just want to make sure that, I know everybody does the best they can within the city departments, but I think some of these people figure especially the hit-and-run people, somebody that's here just for a weekend, and they just totally blow all this stuff away, and then they're gone. Is the person that owns the property, are they being held to task for that?
that's still a violation for the property.
He was speaking,
That's still a violation for the property. People still need to file the complaint and then,
right, but something will, so in other words, the property owner is gonna be held accountable for that, because the people that it may have caused the aggravation have gone.
correct, they wouldn't, we can't, they're not the property owner anyways,
Right.
so we don't take action on them, we take action on the property owner.
Okay. Any other questions?
Rob, I got a question, on page 4 in the zoning thing, they talk about,
Excuse me, I wanna make sure everybody uses their mics, because it's hard for people out there to hear.
the requested use will not overload any public water, drainage, or sewer system. What about somebody on a septic? Can we mandate, say, a semi-annual inspection on a septic system if they have a short-term rental license?
Great Massachusetts.
Speak up, Gail.
I just said that's quite Massachusetts, I mean, no, I'm just being snide.
Please don't.
I don't do that regularly. I really don't, that seems a little bit,
The city doesn't regulate septics,
not regular.
Right, that's DES.
period, it's all, we all leave that with DES.
But on that same note,
Into the mic.
on that same note, if you have a 3-bedroom septic design and you have,
3 bedrooms, should be you're not increasing your,
it should be, but once again, going back to, if there's 3 bedrooms and there's supposed to be, 2 per bedroom, and then it ends up being more than that. do
Like
we have it-
15,
Excuse me?
like 15.
Like 15. Unless somebody complains about that, then nothing happens, correct? I mean, on, as far as enforcement.
but, so that's, you started out with the septic system, and now you kind of transitioned into the
Well,
services?
if we can't, if you're saying that the city of Laconia doesn't regulate the septic systems, it's only through the state. But here we are voting on this tonight. I just think we need to keep in mind that, some of these properties that we're talking about are not on city sewer, or city
So-
water, they're on septics.
Correct. So in the language, it's for municipal services. If you have a private septic system or private well, you're not using municipal services, so
I
you're not gonna.
understand that.
We don't regulate those.
You're asking if we could regulate it with this, so.
That was the question that I believe
But
was
that's,
asked.
I don't know, I'd have to.
that's a, we don't regulate septic as it is. I think that would, it's not overburdening the municipal system. I think that's the key point there.
Well, the problem is it's, and I understand what you're saying, Rob, but the problem is that if somebody's got, and we know what happens, it's just by nature, because people are gonna maximize the rental and the income. But if you've got a septic system that potentially, if it overflows, it will affect other things, I'm just, that's something that bears looking into, because we know that this sort of stuff is going on. I mean, we're not blind to that.
If you want to table it and have us reach out, then we will reach out.
Reach out to who?
Well, we'll have to probably
Legal
consult with
and
legal.
DES.
I think DES would be the one to talk to about that, and I don't even know, I mean, unfortunately, that might get to the point where there is a problem, and then you have to react to that problem. It'd be nice to prevent that problem, but again, we're depending on people's honesty, and with all due respect, a lot of people aren't very honest when it comes to that sort of thing. Not everybody, but enough that it becomes a problem for neighbors and other city residents. I'm not sure what the answer is to that, Rob. I'm not. What's the city council? Are they biting at the bit for this?
I don't think the subject's come up for the city council. That's not to say it can't, but it hasn't yet.
This was referred to us from the Governance and Ordinance Subcommittee
Right,
of City Council.
and I'd like to make it so that when this does go back to the city council, we've pretty much explored every potential issue that could come up, and found an answer for it, so that certain members of the city council realize that the planning board is doing its due diligence.
Certainly. So then I think what we should do then is we'll table it to next month, and then we'll do our research on our end as far as regulating septics go, and what we can and can't do as a city when it comes to that, so.
Okay, will there be a chance for the public to weigh in again?
Certainly. Especially if there's gonna be any changes, we'd have to.
All right, so we'll schedule potentially a public hearing for next month on this?
Yep.
And may or may not vote on it then, and then Councilor Cheney can, or somebody can hear from whether it's the council or the city manager on any other questions
I will,
that we want to cover. Because this is really an important issue, and it's really affected so many neighborhoods. Go ahead.
when you're done with that, I want to go back to the contract thing for just.
Go right ahead, this would be the time.
I see what you've done, and I would like to see it go a bit farther, where a person applying for a permit signs an agreement with the city, they will meet all these requirements. And I'm not sure this goes quite as far as I'd like to see it go. Would you please look into that and see if, we got time now,
Yeah.
and see if we can't get some language where we know somebody, again, from an enforcement perspective, if they have a signed agreement with the city that this is the conditions they'll meet. I'll give you, for instance, noise. I mean, yeah, we can enforce a noise ordinance against the people who are creating the noise.
Right.
But what about the person who's renting the place?
So what we'll do is, since we're already going back to legal, we'll ask them that, if there's any mechanism we can,
Thank you,
we can do to
thank you,
shore that up.
thank you.
You know, I get the whole short term, it's become a business and everything, but that's the key word, business. And we keep, I think, a much stronger hand on motels and hotels and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's only fair that if people are gonna run a business out of their home like this, that they are held to some accountability. You're pointing.
Gail,
Oh, Gail.
she has her hands raised.
Well, okay, well, I cut you off, Gail. Yes.
Sorry, no, I
Go
raised
ahead.
it again, Charlie. The only thing I wanna say is someone who lived, with a septic system for 30 years, trust me, when they fail, toilets don't flush, stuff don't drain. There's multiple other, in terms of a rental contract, which a short-term rental is, that's gonna trigger other life safety issues other than at this board level. You couldn't rent an apartment with a failed septic system, not for long anyway. And, as to, Bruce's thing, I don't really have any comment put the
butters.
clause in there to the police thing, is that the owners will be fined for any violations created by their tenants.
You mentioned the owners, but I think Rich or somebody over here just said the abutters, but we can't forget the abutters.
No, I'm not talking to septic anymore, I'm talking about noise, parking, blah,
the-
blah, 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 blah.
Yep, the whole thing.
That we could create a mechanism whereas if there is a triggered police call or complaint for the next reading, that we could put something in our land ordinance that says that the owner of the property would be, fined.
Okay, any objection to tabling this? We'll just go ahead and table it till next meeting?
Can I just add?
Sure.
Find and perhaps the permission withdrawn. Am I making any sense?
Yeah.
Permission to have short-term rental on your property could be withdrawn if the violation is serious enough.
You got it. We will certainly look into that.
All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and table this with, unless there's an objection to doing that?
You're gonna need a
Unless-
motion for that.
Well, I'm gonna,
Motion to table.
okay,
Second.
now we gotta vote. I was
All
trying to
right.
Get around that.
You tried. Dave Willett, motion to table.
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia, Charlie St. Clair,
Yes,
Amy Levisick,
Yes.
Gail Ober. That is
okay,
tabled.
thank you, that's unanimous, and that now has been tabled to the next meeting. Thank you, everybody, and maybe we'll have some more people here for that next meeting if needed. Okay, now we're going to 6.2, that's PB 2025-067, 35-71 Winnisquam Avenue. Applicant is proposing to extend their current completion date from May 30th to December 30th, 2027. That was May 30th of last month, 2025. Well, hello. First of all, do we have to accept this?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion to accept this application.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second, all in favor?
Up.
Up, go ahead.
Dave Willett,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia.
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair.
Yes,
Amy Levisick,
Yes.
Gail Ober. All right.
okay, so it's been accepted, and if you'll just state your name and where you're from.
My name is Jessica Jacobson. I'm from Wilcox and Barton. We are presenting on behalf of the owner, Naughty Marina Inc., for the extension request that is at hand. There has been a previous extension request that was approved by the board. It's a similar fashion. It is an extension for the final plans to be for December 30th, 2025, and an affiliated construction completion date, which will be December 30th, 2027, matching the same 2-year time frame that the original approval contained. The meaning or the reason behind this extension remains the same. It is ongoing coordination with DPW and with WRBP for those final approval conditions, and that final condition is for an emergency preparedness plan. And when we came for the first extension, it was underway. We were getting basically a third party to do that emergency preparedness plan. We now have someone under contract. It's underway. Hopefully speaking, we're at the tail end of it. We are nearly there on that plan. And they're just working through some as-built material, working through information with WRBP, et cetera. So with that, we're just requesting this extension to occur as a second request.
That's a lot of initials you just gave us. Is this about the pipes?
Yes, so WRBP is the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program. They're the ones who have the pipes. They're the ones who have the as-built information. So with the emergency preparedness plan, they're working with WRBP with that information.
So
So there's
this is-
just been back and forth with that.
So this isn't at a stalemate still? They're actually making
No.
some improvement or
Yes.
movement?
Yes, exactly. We have a third party who's doing the plan at the final stages. They're the ones who are working directly with WRBP. So we're at the final stages. And when that occurs, we'll be working with DPW or continue to do so with that finalized plan.
Okay, any questions from anybody on the board? Okay, thank you. Is this gonna have a public hearing?
Mhm.
Okay, we're gonna do that. We're gonna open this up for public hearing at, by that clock, 7:01. Anybody in the public would like to comment on this request for a continuation of this project? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:01:30. Thank you. Okay, staff?
So, for findings of fact, the application and site plans are complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The application and site plans were previously approved by the planning board at its March 7th, 2023 meeting. An extension request was approved by the planning board at its November 4th, 2024 meeting. And for the staff recommended conditions of approval, the applicant must provide the planning department with an executive summary of the current status of the project by August 1st, 2025. This executive summary must include copies of all permits and approvals obtained from the state, federal, and municipal agencies. All permits and approvals must be provided to the planning department prior to the issuance of any building permit for this project. The milestone dates established in the prior approval are amended as follows. The Mylar and final plans are due December 30th, 2025, and the completion date will be amended to December 30th, 2027. And all prior conditions from the prior planning board approvals, which are not altered by this approval, shall remain in effect.
August 1st?
Yes.
As in a month from now?
Yep.
Yes.
Is that doable?
It's just a.
It's just everything that they currently have at this
Okay,
point,
all
and
right.
then a little couple pages of where they're at.
right.
That's all.
Okay, any questions from the staff? I'll entertain a motion, one way or the other.
Be motion 2.
I move to approve application PB 2025-067 for 35-71 Winnisquam Ave with the conditions of approval and findings of fact as presented by the staff report.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mike. Okay, well, any more comments? We'll take a vote.
All right. Dave Willett,
In favor, yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair. Oh, you're not going to vote on this? Okay. Amy Levisic,
Yes.
Gail Ober.
Yes.
All right, that carries.
Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much, and thank you, and good luck.
All right.
Okay, we're now going to move to 7.1, PB 2025-057. Excuse me, that's 206 Baldwin Street. The applicant is proposing to replace the existing garage with a new garage and add an additional dwelling unit. I'll look for a motion to accept this application.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Rich. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, well,
Dave Willett,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Bruce Cheney,
Yes.
Mike Dellavecchia,
Yes.
Charlie St. Clair.
No, I'm not
Oh,
gonna
that's
vote.
right. Sorry, you're not voting on the applications. Amy Levisic
Yes.
and Gail Ober. I'm sorry, what was that, Gail?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. That carries.
you sucked
Sorry.
me into voting earlier, and I don't vote normally unless I'm breaking a tie, so all of a sudden I said, what am I doing here? So, nice try.
Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, is there somebody here? Yes. Well, come on up, kids, and announce who you are and where you're from, please.
Yeah, hi, everybody. My name's Joe Keller. I'm a contractor, and I've been hired by Amanda Farwell and Adam Jensen. They own the property on 206 Baldwin Street to tear down the existing property and build a new property.
Can you speak into the mic a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. And what was your name again?
Joe Keller?
Joe Keller?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I think I know you, Charlie.
I thought that was you. Okay, thank you. Go ahead. Go ahead, Joe.
So, at the last meeting, we were given a punch list, and one of the items was to generate a new site plan with some revisions. The snow storage was one of them. Parking spots were to be 10 feet from the side and rear setbacks with a vegetative buffer. So we generated this. Can I pass these out?
Just bring them over.
They're all the same.
Yes. Should add more.
We already have that. Yep.
It's the same one.
It's bigger print for Rob.
Yeah,
It's
we
been
already
slightly,
have
we've
this.
added some details.
Is this something you want to put up for the public to see? Can they do that or not?
I don't know, because it's awfully small,
Okay.
but it should, no? I don't know if we can necessarily, but.
Are we all set?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Joe. Anything else?
No, as far as I communicated with Savannah, and she had told me, we agreed, to my understanding, that this is all we needed to do to satisfy the requirements of the last meeting,
Okay.
so.
Do you have anything you wanted to add, or?
Yeah, my name's Adam Jensen. I'm Amanda's husband, and yeah, we'd gone through the variance process and everything, so this was mostly just getting the parking figured out and planned out. So gave it a lot of look and what we have, and it's mostly like this already, but just getting it figured out properly for the addition of the third unit. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Oh, stand by. We'll do a public hearing now. Thank you, both.
Okay.
Unless anybody had any questions. Anybody have any questions for them? Okay, you guys, thank you. We'll open up this to a public hearing at, by that clock, 7:07. Is there anybody in the public that'd like to would comment on this application, one way or the other? Okay, seeing nobody has stepped forward. Oh, look at, we'll close the public hearing at 7:08. Thank you. All right, staff.
So for the findings of fact, the application and site plans are complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations, and the application and site plans were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its June 17th, 2025 meeting. Their comments have been incorporated in the recommended conditions of approval, which are for pre-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be completed at least 2 weeks prior to commencing any work on site. Plans must be revised and submitted to the planning department to include the following. Parking spots must be at least 10 feet from the side and rear property lines with a vegetative buffer or fence along the driveway and parking area. And there must be designated area for snow storage, which you can see that the applicant has provided. The applicant must possess all required permits and approvals granted by federal, state, and municipal boards or agencies. All permits and approvals must be in place prior to the signing and recording of the final plans in Mylar. Should any permit or approval be revoked at any time during the project, all work must cease until a new permit or approval is obtained. Copies of all permits and approvals must be provided by the applicant to the planning department. 4 final plan sets must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department, and erosion controls must be in place and inspected and approved by the planning department. The planning department will perform regular inspections to ensure erosion controls are installed and maintained correctly. For the construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met during the construction of the project. All specifications for municipal water service as required by the water department apply to all construction. The water department must inspect all work on water lines. The applicant must adhere to all specifications as required by the Laconia Fire Department. Private trash service will be required if more than 4 trash cans or a dumpster are used. If a dumpster is used, it must be screened from view on all sides. The required number of parking spaces must be delineated by paint, sign, or other method as approved by the Laconia Planning Department. And the addresses for all units must be assigned by the Department of Public Works to ensure compliance with RSA 231, 133, and 133-A. For the post-construction requirements, all conditions in this section must be met prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy. Impact fees in the amount of $3,481.37 per new unit must be paid to the Planning Department. In accordance with RSA 674-39, the applicant is exempt from any changes to impact fee rates for 5 years from the approval date. Should the project not be completed during the exemption period, the applicant must pay any and all increases to impact fees regardless of the vestment status. Snow storage and/or removal must be provided by the owner so drainage structures can function properly and the required parking spaces can be utilized. And finally, the project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than July 1st, 2030. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension application filed with the Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval will be null and void.
Thank you, Tyler.
No problem.
Any questions from the board?
I have a question for staff.
Okay.
They have enough green space for 3 units?
And then a mic, kid.
I'm sorry. Is there ample green space for 3 units?
There is.
Okay.
Anybody else?
TRC didn't have concerns with snow storage as that's a sloping lot, as far as, okay.
No. Nope.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? The scale's all set. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve application PB 2025-057 for 206 Baldwin Street with the conditions and approval findings of fact presented by Tyler.
Is there a second on that?
Second.
Seconded by Rich. Any more comments? Okay,
All right, Dave Willett,
Approve.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia.
Yes.
Charlie Amy Levisick,
Yes.
Gail Ober. I'm used to going down the line there.
I see that. Okay, that's been approved unanimously. I wish you both luck. Joe, it's nice to see you. Give me a call sometime. We're high school buddies, and I haven't seen him in a while, so that'd be nice, Joe. Thank you. Okay, thank you. We're gonna move on now to right here. To 7.2, this is BP 2025-069, 1048 Watson Road and Hayes Road. Applicant is proposing a 52-unit condominium subdivision of a previously approved multifamily site plan. I'll look for a motion to accept this.
I'll make that motion.
Richard's moved it, and you're seconding it, Mike?
Yeah.
So Richard made the motion, and Mike seconded it.
All right. Dave Willett,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia.
Yes.
Amy Levisick.
Yes.
Gail Ober.
It's unanimous. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Good evening.
Members of the board, my name is John Cronin. We are representing the applicant this evening. You likely remember this particular case. Some of you sat on it before. We went through the planning process for this 52-unit condo at the Stonewall property. It was approved at the time that we were going through the process. There was some discussion about whether it would be a rental property or a condominium. It was uncertain at that particular time. There was some condominium information submitted, but after discussing with staff, after the decision having been made that they'd like to pursue the condominium route, that we should put in a condominium site plan and condo documents, which has been done. So it's the exact same project, same property. Your regulations require is informational to submit that plan. We've done that. I think the Wallace Sands case versus Rye basically says it's an informational filing. And if you can do a project as a rental, you can also do it as a condominium. It would be a different type of ownership structure, but no different impact on land use.
Any questions? I have a question or two. So, right in front of that goes along Route 3, and is that still saying that's for,
Yes, that's, we talked about that. That's the site that's used a couple of weeks a year during Bike Week for vendor tents. The discussion is about
used to be RVs?
RVs at one point in time.
Right. But I noticed there were no RVs there this year. So we're not gonna use that for RVs, it's strictly gonna be, are you in control of that, or is the business next door in charge of that?
No, it would be a little bit different, right? There's a note on the plan, note number 4, that talks about the reservation. Basically, there'll be an easement. I have a draft copy of it if you want to see it, from the current owner to a third party, owned and controlled by the same folks, that will take responsibility for it, for all management, all utilities, all cleanup, all setup. And they have to do it, of course, in accordance with your permitting structures for
Sure.
Bike
Who
Week.
owns the property, though?
The condominium would own it, subject to an easement.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. So my next question is there there's not a sidewalk in front of that? There is a sidewalk there. I know it's in front of Fun Spot. Does it go right? I don't think it goes right down to the property next door, to High Octane. Correct me if I'm wrong.
There is, Charlie. I think
So
there's
it goes from Hayes Road,
I don't believe that there's a sidewalk on Hayes Road, but I believe that
no,
there's a...
no, from Hayes Road down to the corner where Watson Road is there.
Yes.
On that side,
There is an existing sidewalk
there is an existing sidewalk.
along Endicott Street North, yep.
Okay, wonderful. That was a good slide there. Okay, we don't have to worry about that then. Beautiful. That was my question, because if we didn't have one there, we certainly would need one, so, okay. Go ahead.
My understanding is that there was gonna also be a sidewalk on Hayes Road as a result of this, and that the developer was gonna pave Hayes Road
That's correct.
the length of your property.
Yeah, all the conditions that applied to the underlying approval still exist. There's no change to that.
Okay, so just for the public that's not aware of the old conditions, or when we've talked about this before, so the road's gonna be paved up to the end of your property?
Up to the end of the property.
That's correct?
That's
And then there'll be a sidewalk on your side going down. And are the mailboxes on your side or on the other side? The other side? Okay. So those aren't affected. And the lighting in this area has all been,
Yes, this has already been approved.
yeah, I know, I just, again, for the public as a whole, I just want to kind of go over this stuff, because these are questions. So the lighting has been addressed. That's all I need is that. So, any other questions from anybody? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll open this up for a public hearing at 7:17. Is there anybody in the public that would like to address this application?
Hello, Mr. Sinclair.
If you-
Star Lawton from Fun Spot. Just wondering about the traffic patterns in that area. We have a condo development just up the road a little bit on the other side.
That's the RV deal?
No, the one, it's kind of across from the Weir's Times lot.
Oh, further towards Weirs Beach, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we have that condo unit going in there, and now this one coming in, and I'm just, we all saw what happened a couple years ago with the loony bin, the crazy traffic right there, so I'm just wondering about that.
Well, that would be a state question, because that is state road there. I see a concern. That's one reason why we've been really adamant about putting sidewalks, developers to put the sidewalks in, so people aren't walking in the road
Yeah.
as much. I don't think there's any plans to change the traffic light there, but that certainly is something that can be manipulated as
Yeah,
time.
that would just be a concern for
Yeah.
that. I mean, that's a really busy street right there. And
Busy all the way
adding
down,
two
yep.
big housing developments there, I think that the city would need to
And I will say.
look into something like that.
Yep, so with the prior approval, we did address the traffic issues
Oh,
and that
okay.
they were gonna have to adhere to any state requirements as far as the permitting goes, because that is a state road and we don't have jurisdiction over the road itself.
Yep,
So,
got it.
But
All
that
right.
was addressed. Yep.
Good, thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you very much, Star. Anybody else would like to comment on this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing at 7:19. Staff?
So the application and site plans are complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The planning board previously approved the applicant's multifamily site plan at its December 3rd, 2024 meeting. The application and site plans were reviewed by the technical review committee at its June 17th, 2025 meeting, and their comments have been incorporated in the recommended conditions of approval, which are: Number 1, a voluntary lot merger must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. The form must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense prior to the issuance of any building permit. Condominium documents must be submitted to the planning department for review and approval. These documents must include a description of the common area shown on the condominium plan, as well as a copy of the proposed easement for the area out front along Endicott Street North. These documents must be recorded at the Belknap County Register of Deeds at the applicant's expense. The addresses for all units must be assigned by the Department of Public Works to ensure compliance with RSA 231, 133, and 133-A. The final plans must include all 911 addresses for each unit. A floor plan for each unit must be provided to the planning and assessing departments prior to the issuance of each certificate of occupancy. 4 final plan sets must be submitted to, reviewed, and approved by the planning department. The project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than December 3rd, 2029, and if all conditions are not met nor any extension application filed with Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval will be null and void, and all the conditions from the prior December 3rd, 2024 Planning Board approval, which were not altered by this approval, shall remain in effect.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any questions or comments on this? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve application PB 2025-069 for Endicott Street North and Hayes Road with the conditions of approval and findings of fact as presented in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Amy. Any more comments? Well, I'll make a comment then. Where'd you guys go? Where'd they go? There you are, back there. I look forward to seeing how this goes. it's definitely gonna have an impact up there with regards to, traffic and, I see it through the windows there. It's definitely gonna have an impact, as Star pointed out, on traffic up there, but I know that you'll be paying close attention to that, and anything that needs to be adjusted, will be done so, and then you'll work well with your neighbors up there. This is a big impact on that road. There's no doubt about that, so I look forward to you working with everybody. I know you're going to, so thank you very much. Okay, we'll go ahead and take a vote.
Dave Roulette.
Yes.
Rich McNeil.
Yes.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia. Amy Levisik.
Yes.
And Gail Ober.
Did you hear Mike say yes, because he was kinda, well, he did say
I mean,
yes.
I heard him say yes.
Okay. Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay. We will now move to 7.3, PB 2025-070, 144 Valley Street. The applicant is proposing to extend their current completion date from June 4th, that's also gone by, 2025 to June 4th of 2029. Look for a motion to accept.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Rich. A second?
A second.
Amy's seconded. Any discussion? Call a roll.
Dave Roulette.
Yes.
Rich McNeil.
Yes.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia.
Yes.
Amy Levisik.
Yes.
And Gail Ober.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Is the applicant here? Do we need the applicant here?
Not necessarily, but if you would like the applicant to be here, you can table it to next month.
I don't really, they must have, did they tell you what's going on, or what's going on? Maybe you can stand in for them.
Yep.
They
Would
just
agree.
they just purchased the property. They're really, and they purchased the property that had an approval previously. They're just looking to extend that approval.
Thank you.
So they have time to do it. They don't have the financial means at the moment, I think, to do it, but as it's quite costly to convert the building to a boarding rooming house. There were some fire requirements, so they're looking to extend that approval out to kind of build in some time.
We need a public,
Yeah, we'll need a public hearing, so if you want to.
well, this is their chance to squash it, and we'll move along with a public hearing. Is there anybody, we'll open it at 7:24. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this project at 144 Valley Street in Laconia? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:24.30. Now, does anybody on the board have any concerns about this request?
They're making a rooming house?
Yeah, we already approved it.
Yeah.
It's been approved, even I remember it.
Yeah.
It did, it went to zoning board, and then it came to planning board as well, and then they ended up going through with the sale, and this person just bought it, and they're
I
just
can
looking to.
picture the project, that's how well I remember it, okay. Gail, any commentary?
The only question or concern I have is why they need 4 years?
So state,
And they should be here, to be honest with you, that's a little troubling. But, 4 years seems like a long time, for an extension.
so
I remember when it came in front of us the first time and I supported it, but mostly because we were facing, we were staring down an acute housing shortage. And we had just lost a significant amount of housing in the Lakeport area due to some redevelopment. That's all I have to say. I think that the extension date is a bit long. That's all. I'd support 2 years, but not 4. And if it's not done in 2 years, they can come back for another extension.
Okay, thank you.
So state law protects them for a period of 5 years from their initial
correct.
approval.
Right.
So
Okay.
we're just trying to match that.
I withdraw that.
Okay. Anybody else? Staff, you all set?
Yeah, I can read off here. So the application and site plans are complete and consistent with state and city land use regulations. The application and site plans were previously approved by the planning board at its June 4th, 2024 meeting. The only recommended conditions of approval we have is that an administrative review application and fee for the home occupation must be submitted to the planning department prior to the issuance of any building permit. The project and all associated conditions must be completed by no later than June 4th, 2029. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension application filed with the Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval will be null and void, and all prior conditions from the prior planning board approval which are not altered by this approval shall remain in effect.
Thank you. Any more questions? I'll just comment that who knows why they're not here, but it doesn't seem necessary to move it to another meeting, tie up another potential planning board where this is a pretty standard request. They're not making any changes, so. Okay, we'll take the roll on that. Make a motion. I have a motion to accept this from anybody?
I think we're looking for a
We've already
motion
done
to-
that, we've already done that, right?
Yep, we'll
Okay,
make motion
so
to.
we'll do a roll call on this.
Well, we still need a motion.
That's what I was asking for, a motion to approve this, not accept, excuse me.
I don't
Make
have
a
the-
motion to approve application PB 2025-070 for 144 Valley Street with the conditions of approval and findings of fact as presented in the staff report.
I second it.
Second?
Yes.
Well, Dennis, second in that, you got that?
All right. Dave Willett,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia,
Yes.
Amy Levisick,
Yes.
and Gail Ober. Okay.
Okay, so noted, so it's one no and 2, 4, 5 and approved it. So we'll move on. Thank you. Thank you out there somewhere, and good luck to them. Okay, now we're gonna move on to the next one. This is 7.4 PB 2025-054. This is the one right-way path. Laconia Village. Applicant is proposing an overall development plan for a mixed-use development to be constructed over multiple phases. Excuse me, not phrases, phases. Do a motion to accept the application?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
All right. Dave Willett,
Yes.
Rich McNeil,
Yes.
Counselor Cheney,
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia,
Yes.
Amy Levisick,
Yes.
and Gail Ober.
Okay, that was all in the affirmative. Somebody's here. If you can state your name and where you're from, sir?
Justin Kernan with City Collective, representing the landowner Pillsbury Realty Development.
Okay.
I have a handful of slides to just introduce the planning board submission today, if folks would entertain this. I'll just keep that as good they can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just want to briefly introduce the folks that are with me today. So unfortunately, Michael and Kevin aren't with us. They're both traveling, but with me, I have Jimmy D'Angelo, who is the owner's representative, my colleague, Bob Duvall, who's the engineering lead, Ari Pollock, who is our attorney, and myself, Justin Kernan, who is the design lead on the effort together. So what I wanted to cover briefly today, what we wanted to cover briefly today, is first, review the process to date. We appreciate we have not been back in front of you for the past 7 months, so we just want to recap a little bit together. Want to recap the project vision that we discussed back in December to just show where we've landed today. The third is we just want to summarize the planning board submission. I'm not going to go through all of the due diligence work that we have done. That's been provided to you in advance, but I do just want to recap that. Then, of course, answer any questions or receive any comments you might have. So the first thing that I want to introduce is, the 12-month process to date. So our development team has been working with the site since July of last year. So the state put, as a reminder, the state put the site out to an RFP process in July. Our client and the developer responded to that and then put the site under contract with the state in September. We came back to you all in December to do a conceptual plan review. And then just a reminder, right, we looked at the more illustrative site plan, talked about the overall vision. You provided some fantastic feedback. We've spent the past 7 or 8 months working through due diligence together with city staff. So this is just a recap of that timeline and that engagement. So that is July, and you see in September, moved to immediately after the purchase and sale agreement was, contract was put into place. We met with city staff, talked about their aspirations for the site, what they wanted to see happen. We then talked through technical staff as well, the planning department, public works, engineering, trying to figure out what they're looking for the site. We then brought all that forward to the conceptual plan review, which is what we looked at together in early December. We then went away and had a series of TRC meetings. So we went through the standard process for the TRC, the first one in December, the second one in April, the third one in May. We obliged by doing an extra as well. We've also coordinated with NHDOT in the process, and that has come full circle to our submission here in late May into obviously here in the planning board. Any questions on that? So what you would see in that submission that we compiled is all of the due diligence we have done. Fiscal impact, you'll see that the latest plans, the more technical plans, it's all building on the conceptual plan that we all looked at together in early December, but now actually working through all of the considerations we've been asked of by the technical review committee and from your initial feedback in early December as well. And this is just a reminder that what we are looking at today is for the overall development master plan. This is through the performance district zoning. This is not an individual site plan approval and submission. So when we go back to do any future actual phasing and development of the first phase, we would be back in the typical site plan submission process. So I just want to be absolutely clear about that. This is not approval for an individual project. This is ahead of any kind of project that happens after this. Just want to be absolutely clear. And so if we were to proceed today, you would not see us back for that first site plan until 2026, and the first phase would be built somewhere in 2028, to give everyone kind of an order of magnitude in terms of timing and development. So I'm not going to belabor this. I just want to remind everybody of the vision that we talked through together in early December and speak to how the spirit of that vision and the spirit of the feedback that you all provided at that time remains consistent with what we've developed since then. The first is that incredible opportunity, ideal location, obviously within the Lakes region. The site in particular is a lakeside site surrounded by incredible nature and incredible local recreation. We think that this is the paramount idea to really build on for the site and in the future. And that has really fueled the vision for the site and all the feedback we've heard from the community engagement and from planning staff, from technical staff, and from yourselves, which is this intersection of civic life, lush natural surroundings, and active recreation that we think we can deliver on the site.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, please.
Can you explain, did you say civil life?
Civic.
Can you
That's right.
explain that?
So thinking about engaging in public realm, high quality public spaces in a way that's not about a private residence, but a broader community in which you can engage in. Carrying the legacy of Laconia in a community into a development. This is not a private gated community for only the people that live there. It's a broader amenity for all of Laconia. And just a reminder of how that translates into the planning for the site, first identifying and preserving the rich natural features on the site to the tune of 70-something acres, linking the whole site with a larger Main Street amenity that works up from southeast to northwest, creating 3 walkable nodes, so having 3 separate neighborhoods that are highly walkable with one another, creating an east-west set of streets that connect the open space to the north to the open space to the south, infill with a highly connected street network, and then front those anchors with a mix of uses that complement that walkability.
So I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, please.
You said Main Street, but that's not the name of the street, right? It's going to be called something else.
Yeah, and it's a good clarifying question. Not to be confused with the name of the street, which is we're not sure yet.
But not Main Street.
That's right. The street type is having something that is highly walkable, has active retail and
A
other
big
uses
street,
on it.
okay.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, thank
That's
you.
right, of course. And this is, of course, the plan that we presented back in December. This is just a reminder of the kind of character of place in which we're imagining. There's 5 key moments: the kind of mixed-use gateway when you arrive to the site, the residential core, which is smaller in character, that has a kind of traditional New England town, this kind of civic campus core in which we have some kind of civic function to be determined, but something that is more publicly accessible, having this larger kind of woven together neighborhood set of trails for recreation, and this larger recreational heart, which is up by the sports complex that exists today. Okay, so that's just a recap. That's not any new information. What you will find in the larger submission, and I'm not going to go through all of this in detail, is you're going to find a cover letter. So that's just introducing the submission, the topics, where we've been, what we've heard, what we have acted on. The first section in the narrative is talking about the Laconia Village vision and plan. In section 2, you'll see a more detailed narrative of the process to date, the feedback we specifically received at all of those milestones and how we've acted on them since then. The third section is the design outcomes and the technical conclusions. So we presented the conceptual plan back in December. We've done a ton of due diligence on the site. We've heard very specific technical feedback, and we have revised the plan to keep the same spirit of the plan, but also to meet the expectations we've heard, detailed expectations we've heard along the way. And then lastly is a list of exhibits that detail this out a little bit further. The primary exhibits are the ones 1 through 7 follow the exact letter of the performance zoning in which there are requirements. So that's the existing conditions, proposed site plan, on-site traffic diagram, utilities diagram, overall stormwater management plan, proposed architectural styles, proposed phasing plan. And for your further reference, we have supplied a series of supporting exhibits that are the backup to those primary exhibits. They don't form the basis of the performance zoning specific requirements, but we thought it would be really helpful for you to be able to see some of that backup data and some of that backup information that we have been working through. And that goes through the proposed heights, the proposed streets, the intersection plan, conceptual parking, the traffic memo in which we have been working through the water sewer analysis, stormwater, fiscal impact analysis, the conceptual plan presentation, which was as presented back in December, the planning board meeting minutes from that time, and then meeting minutes from TRC 1, 2, and the draft MOU that was adopted at the council meeting. So I'm going to draw breath and would welcome any comments and questions that I might be able to answer.
Anybody have any questions or comments? No? Go ahead, Counselor.
I know we talked on a previous occasion about a traffic study, and I haven't seen the results of that traffic study. It's my understanding it has not been completed. Is that true?
Bob, do you want to speak, just provide more detail? I can play an engineer, but.
It's an extensive, my name is Bob Duval, by the way, TF Moran. It's an extensive traffic study. It's looking at 21 intersections throughout Laconia, some controlled by state, some controlled by the city. Two new intersections were just added by Wes Anderson just a few weeks ago.
Tell us what intersections we're talking about?
All 21.
I'm sorry?
All 21.
No, the 2 that were just added by Wes Anderson.
Fair Street at down by the proposed marina, and Busy Corner, Winter Street, was just added.
Do we have a list of the 21
And
previous?
if I can maybe add to this point, you know, the list of intersections that are in the middle of being studied was a collaborative process between our engineering staff, the city's engineering staff, and NHDOT to talk about the scope in which made the most sense to provide a study long-term. So I want to be clear that that was not something we decided, it was
No,
done
I-
collaboratively, just to be clear.
I think I understand that. I cannot help but express concern that we need it sooner rather than later, because I suspect this is gonna have a massive impact on the city of Laconia. If you say 2.3 people per unit, that's something on the order of, 5,000 people? And 2,500 cars that we don't have right now, plus other growth. So I'm concerned that we see a traffic study done at your absolute earliest convenience.
Well, the traffic study is well underway. At the very outset of this project, shortly after we spoke with you all the first time, we met with the state, we met with city staff, and we worked out a scope of, at that time, 20 intersections that would be studied. The parameters of the study, the trip distribution, the trip generation associated with the project, the annual growth rate, seasonal adjustment factors, all of that was agreed upon at that scoping meeting at the outset. We then prepared the trip generation and distribution study that showed how many trips this proposal would generate and where those trips would likely go based on existing traffic patterns and census data and so forth. That was submitted back in April and has been reviewed by the city, by a peer reviewer of the city, working for NACORET in Public Works Department, and it has been reviewed by the state. They've commented on that, we've addressed those comments, and everybody agrees that we understand what the trip generation is from this project, where it's gonna go, how many trips at each intersection, and we're working through those numbers now and preparing a list of all 21 intersections, the number of trips that are going through that, what current conditions are, what proposed conditions would be at full build-out, and then what, if any, mitigation would be required at that intersection to keep conditions acceptable. So that's underway. Actually, I have with me a list of all those things. And we're at the point of making an initial submission to the city and the city's reviewer and the state to show what conditions are, what conditions will be, and what mitigation is appropriate for each of those intersections.
Sorry, and just one further point that I'm just gonna add, because we completely appreciate the question around this, and part of the development plan submission and approval process, right, is that there's conditions that the traffic plan needs to be complete before we can actually move on to the next phase in the individual site plan. And then the phase 1 site plan requires its own traffic study in addition to this. And so it will be completed and revisited at least once before anyone gets any kind of permit to build a building, just to clarify. Because we understand the overall kind of concern about closing this larger point out.
So let me just say in summary, we've done a lot of work on the traffic study. We understand the traffic that will be generated by this project. We've shared it with the state and with the city. The next step is to go through a mitigation plan in detail, and all that will be reviewed and approved and agreed to by city staff before a shovel hits the ground out on this project.
You've shown the state and you've shown the city, haven't shown this board.
Yeah.
I guess that's where I was coming from. I think the board would like to know some of the answers before we go.
Well, I'm hoping that, I know they've had, I think you had a big hearing or a meeting on this before that was open to the public. Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, we've had several TRC meetings where this has all been open.
TRC.
And actually, in the agenda we have published online is the traffic memo that they're discussing. And in that traffic memo, it has all the study, the intersections that were studied with this, has them all listed out and the results of all those.
Is one of those Elm Street and Parade Road?
Yes.
Yes.
And is there gonna be a rotary put there, or are they gonna leave it with traffic lights?
That's going to be a decision, I believe, for the state to make.
Yeah, that's a state.
Because that intersection is a pain in the butt now.
And look, I'm not questioning what you've accomplished up to this point. I'm simply saying to you, no one's talking about remediation of some of the issues.
Right.
Right, and that's the part I'd like us to see.
Right, and I think part of that is getting to that final result of we need to know the condition of the road and what the conditions are going to be. And once that is all done, before there's any approval to put a shovel in the ground, is we're gonna know what roads need to be upgraded to meet the requirements of each phase. So phase one, you might need to improve this intersection, or you might need to do A, B, C, or D to mitigate the traffic. But we're not gonna know that until the state approves everything and we get the final results of the state.
And it will come back, once we have all that information, it will come back to this board to review. So-
I just want to point out to them, at least from this member's point of view, that's an important.
Certainly.
I mean, those of us who travel up Old North Main Street every day are concerned.
Yep.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I saw your estimate of the impact on the schools. You're all set. Unless you want to take the beating for the schools too. No, yeah. I saw your estimate for the impact on the schools, which was about half what statistics would indicate school impact might be. Can you tell me how you arrived at the number?
Yeah.
Oh, here comes a new beat
I'll
up.
take the beating. My name's Ari Pollock. I'm an attorney with the Gallagher firm in Concord. I've been working on this project for the year that Justin described in his slides. And I've worked on a number of mixed-use projects around the state over the last almost 30 years. I know I look young for 30 years. Maybe I don't. The fiscal impact study was prepared by an independent consultant. It was submitted to the town, the city rather, and it was based upon a series of interviews that were conducted with city and school district staff. That consultant is not here this evening, but the numbers that are in that report were informed by those interviews. They're intended to be an estimate, they're intended to be conservative, they're intended to be a guide. It's not a guarantee. We think that the fiscal impact on the community from the project in terms of tax dollars to the district, tax dollars to the city are significantly positive. And so while there's always room to be off by an estimate here or there or in other factors in the report, we believe that we've provided a very positive and conservative estimation for what the fiscal impact of the project will be on the community. The variables that are frankly out of our control are what happens in the market around us, what happens to the region around us, what happens to the absorption rate for the product that we're building, and how does the market change over the phasing period that we're projecting. That's why these are all estimates, that's why we hire experts, and that's why we do the best we can. But the numbers that are in that report are tremendously positive.
Depending on the progress of your project and the type of housing that you'll be building at any one given time, may have a significant difference in how many kids you produce at any one time. The other thing I would say to you is I've been shown a national study that talks about per unit, per housing unit, how many children are likely to be included, which raises the number beyond what you've already showed us. I'll look forward to hearing your numbers in more detail as we go forward. But our school system is hard-pressed now, so I don't want to see it too much harder pressed.
Yeah, understood. Those are fair questions. Each phase of the development that will follow this master planning effort will have different types of housing, and we have a diversity of housing type throughout the development. Some of those housing types attract families with children, some don't.
Yeah,
and as that mixture rolls off, we'll be able to make some better guesses about each phase.
And that's what I was hoping to ask. what is the mixture?
Yeah.
I don't expect it tonight, but at some point before we go much further. Can I also say, as it relates to your age concerns, I'm a retired cop. I'm used to lawyers fantasizing and saying things.
Well, then none of it will come as a surprise.
Lastly, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Could we ask for a best guess for a timeline? I heard tonight, 2028, I believe I heard,
For the first phase.
for the first phase.
The first phase.
What about the other phases?
Yeah, so I'm gonna answer your question with it depends. And every real estate phase at this size usually takes a 3-year cycle. 1 year to design, 2 years to construct,
Yep.
and it really depends on absorption. And so what you saw in the plan is a diversity of housing type on purpose so that we can determine as we build how fast or how slow we all collectively want to go and not be constrained by larger macro conditions, at least to the degree in which we can do it. And so, I mean, you're talking about this being somewhere between, let's say, 10 and 15, maybe 18 years at full build out, depending on the actual cycle, but just to give you a kind of order of magnitude there.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments? So I've got some questions here that some people have reached out to me on, but I'm curious about the name of this place. You've got it listed here as Laconia Village, is that right?
Yep.
So we have Laconia. We've always heard this, I've always heard the 3-village thing. You know, we got Laconia, Lakeport, and the Weirs. So now we've got a Laconia. I mean, it's not making sense to me. It really doesn't, and it's not making sense to a number of other people.
I think we'd be open to workshopping the brand together.
You'd be open to what?
Workshopping the brand and the name together.
Well, you got a nice park right there.
I think we'd be okay.
Maybe village it.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, you know, so now there are people in the downtown core that are very suspicious that your plan is to make downtown a ghost town and
No.
move everybody up there. And I said, well, you know, I don't think so, but.
No, and I will say, you know, this is where really careful, thoughtful planning is not an accident. If we were proposing only retail and commercial and not a significant amount of residents, that is then the risk, is you're cannibalizing other uses elsewhere. But where the density and diversity of housing product that we're putting alongside of this is to actually provide a complement to downtown, not trying to remove it or try to take away any of intensity from it.
So Laconia Village is not set in stone?
No,
Well,
I
that's good.
think we can say we're open to feedback.
Okay, that's good to hear for a lot of people. And then I also had a business person downtown ask me, I didn't read all this verbatim, but apparently there's been some mention of a theater up there?
I don't know about a theater.
Okay.
We have not discussed
Okay,
a
'cause
theater, but there's we have suggested some kind of a civic function.
Okay.
So we just think it would be great to have I'm going to toss out things like a small city presence, a library, something in which the city can have a presence in the actual development that makes it feel extra like the whole community can participate, not just being insular to itself.
Well, they're not, as you know, you're not that far away from a present-day library, and the theater that the city has put in a tremendous amount of money into, and then we have a theater in Lakeport that the local developer there has put a lot of money into. So I would hate to think that any residents are thinking that you're trying to.
On the theater front, I can tell you no one has floated a theater in any way.
Okay.
Yeah, just to
Just
answer
to-
that directly.
Yeah, just to add to that, there's no intention to take uses away from the downtown or to replace them with something new or different. The idea behind the civic center is simply to have some sort of a public gathering space. It doesn't need to be a building. It doesn't need to be a particular type of use. It's more just a way to have the community feel welcome there, even if they don't live there.
Yeah.
The other questions I think have already been answered. That there was one question here about the entrance to the the park there, but that's, I know you've got that wide open. And, okay, that pretty much covers what I had to ask. Anybody else? One last shot. Go ahead, Mike.
Charlie, the grocery store along Parade Road, it doesn't look like that large of a buffer. Is it possible to plant trees now? You know, I don't want to drive down Parade Road and see a shopping center right there.
Yeah, so I'll answer your question in three parts. Short answer is yes. The long answer is scale at this size of a site is really, really deceiving. That distance from the front of what looks to be the grocery store to Parade Road is something like 300 feet. It is much farther than perceptually it looks on the plan because of how big the site is. So that's the second part. The third part is when we go to do the detailed design for phase one, we'll be going through a site plan submission in which we can actually iron out together those specific details of that site. So I don't want you to think that this is the last time we're going to have this conversation. You know, we'll be back for those detailed conversations for site one.
I would just like to see
phase one,
wood,
excuse me.
You know, in there, because it's open field right now. And
Yep.
Yeah, Mike brings up a good point. It would be smart to start doing some plantings there now, because it will take a little time to grow.
So I'll just remind the board that we don't own anything yet.
Yeah.
We have the property under agreement with the state. We're working through the contingencies in that purchase agreement. We're certainly hoping to have a closing, all this work leading to something. But we don't have rights to do anything other than poke and prod and study. And so when we make reference to the site plans, that would occur after a closing, after we're in control, after we've got the ability to maybe do some advanced landscaping and get ahead of some of these things that do require some time. But I'll just underscore the point quickly that right now we're here for a master plan, a conceptual master plan. This approval, when we hopefully receive it, will entitle us to build nothing. We cannot pull a building permit without going through the site plan portion of the planning process.
Okay. Fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay, without further ado, we'll thank you both, all, and we'll open this up to a public hearing at 7:58. If there's anybody in the audience that would like to come up and give us their thoughts, now's the time to do it.
Good evening, I'm Dean Hanson, I'm the chairman of the Conservation Commission, and I have a couple of suggestions and a request. My request is that the applicant come before the Conservation Commission before each phase of their project. So just before they come to the planning board.
I think that's a good idea, because as you know, we kind of look to see what you guys recommend too, rightfully so. Okay.
Great, thank you. I think a specific comment is 5-story buildings and this site, this is a high visibility area, and I think 5-story buildings is too much. But
I think is it permitted in that zone there? It is, correct? 6-story?
They're looking to utilize performance zoning.
Right, so that could be up to 6 stories, correct? Am I right about that? Yeah.
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 Okay.
Okay.
I concur with you on that, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. I think that one of the things that concerns me is stormwater. I think every effort should be made to keep all the stormwater on this site.
We're taking notes here, Tyler?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. And then my suggestion is that the applicant look for a design that would be award-winning. And I don't know what that means, but award-winning. You know, this is, I think in too many instances, this is my own personal opinion, we don't take enough pride in our city. And I think that this is an opportunity. This is a high-profile site, and I think whatever we can do to have something that is outstanding, that attracts more people to our city, not just to live in this, this project, but just to come and explore our city. I think, you know, that would be, I think that would be worthwhile. So it's, I guess what I'm doing is I'm challenging the applicant to come up with award-winning design and construction, of course. So.
Okay, any questions? Okay, thank you, Dean.
Thank you.
Anybody else? It sounds like the public will have several bites of the apple on this project as it goes along, but this is good now. Come on up.
Question first. I'm not.
If you could just say who you are.
My name is Dan Malarkey. I am not a Laconia resident.
Okay, that's
Am I
okay.
allowed to introduce something? Yes, okay. I haven't been to previous meetings on this project. I understand that, you know, this is a big deal and going forward. I'm not trying to object to that. I just want to let you know, in case people don't know, that this state school property is a prime bird watching habitat. It is actually the #1 hotspot in the whole county, other than lakes themselves. It's a #1 terrestrial habitat. So for the developers, if there's anything you can do to preserve as much habitat as possible, I think that would be a great thing. There are no, to my knowledge, there's no threatened and endangered species nesting there, but they do come through there. I personally have seen eastern meadowlarks there, and that is a threatened species. Bobolinks definitely nest there, both on the top field and on the lower fields. Bobolinks are a species of concern in many areas. I just want to encourage award-winning design in terms of preserving as much of the excellent natural habitat as possible. Ahern has great habitat too, but it's not as diverse as the state school habitat.
So the fields are.
The fields attract a number of birds that don't go to Ahern. I understand, you know, most of that will be gone. But I have birded both extensively. The state school is, in the last 5 years or so, we've seen 147 species on state school property. So, thank you.
That's, well, thank you very much for coming up and giving us those comments. Very important, and I'm sure you're not alone in your observations there.
No, I have multiple friends that go and bird there.
Okay.
Last spring, actually, there was a loggerhead shrike there, which is a very rare bird in the state. It's really an accidental bird, but that attracted people from all over the state to come. Unfortunately, I was away, so I'm bitter about it. But that was on the state school property. That was not on Ahern's property. Same as the meadowlark, same as the bobolinks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Is there anybody else that's here that would like to comment on? This application? This is your chance. There will be many more public hearings, it sounds like, but we've got the people doing this development here in the room now, so this would be a good shot. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 8:05. Staff, you have any comments on anything you'd like to? I realize this is.
No, we did do a staff report. Todd will go through that, and then I guess once we go through that, if you have any questions or we want to discuss something else, you can let us know, and we can go from there.
And I'll also preference too that, you know, we did do an extensive review of this staff report, and we've even had the city's legal counsel review it as well to make sure we're good on our end. So, I'll start off with the findings of fact. We have quite a few of them for this one. So the application and overall development plan are consistent with state and city land use regulations. The Governor and Executive Council approved a purchase and sale agreement with Pillsbury Realty Development at their September 25th, 2024 meeting as late item B. The applicant participated in a preliminary conceptual consultation with the Planning Board at their meeting on December 3rd, 2024. The applicant participated in a preliminary conceptual consultation with the Technical Review Committee at their meeting on December 17th, 2024. The applicant applied for a conditional use permit for an overall development plan on March 31st, 2025. The application and overall development plan were reviewed by the Technical Review Committee at its April 15th, 2025 meeting. After discussion with the committee members, it was mutually agreed that the applicant would return for a third review by the TRC at a later date. And then finally, the application and overall development plan were reviewed again by the TRC at its June 17th, 2025 meeting, and their comments have been incorporated in the recommended conditions of approval. Those recommended conditions are: the overall development plan, also referred to in these conditions as the plan, must be revised and submitted to the planning department to include the following. The plan must identify which roads are intended to be public and which roads are intended to be private. The plan must acknowledge that impact fees will be assessed at individual site plan and subdivision approvals at the rates adopted by City Council at the time of assessment. The plan must acknowledge that all roads must be built to the city's minimum design standards unless waived by the planning board in accordance with their regulations. The plan must acknowledge that private solid waste, recycling, road maintenance, and utility maintenance services are required for all private roads. The plan must include a final traffic study that includes all required off-site improvements to maintain current traffic ratings. Prior to the submission of development plans for Phase 1, a third-party review of the traffic study and off-site improvements report is required at the applicant's expense, and all deficiencies must be resolved. The third party must be approved by the Laconia Planning Department. The plan must include a final stormwater management report that evaluates the impact of snow storage and melt and the applicant's intent to mitigate and manage it. The final stormwater report must also evaluate the impact of proposed point source locations on properties downstream and the applicant's intent to mitigate and manage it. Prior to the submission of development plans for Phase 1, a third-party review of the plan set and stormwater report for total build-out is required at the applicant's expense, and all deficiencies must be resolved. The third party must be approved by the Laconia Planning Department. In accordance with RSA 3657-2, a copy of the initial overall development plan must be provided to the Lakes Region Planning Commission at the applicant's expense. A final completed development plan must be submitted at the final completion of the project that includes all updated studies, reports, plans, and on-site infrastructure inventories from this initial approval through the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy. Then, the submission requirements for each phase. The following must be included in the submission to Planning Board for the subdivision plat and/or the initial site plan for each phase: an updated traffic study for the applicable phase, an updated stormwater management report for the applicable phase, an updated off-site improvements report including all required on-site and off-site improvements to water service, sewer service, roads, intersections, stormwater management systems, electrical utilities, gas utilities, and communications lines for the applicable phase. Additional third-party review of the updated traffic study, stormwater management report, and off-site improvements report may be required at the applicant's expense for each phase. Third-party review of fire and life safety codes will be required at the applicant's expense for all subsequent building permits submitted. The third party must be approved by the Laconia Fire Department. All completed third-party reviews must be submitted to the fire department for review and approval. Any additional requirements, comments from the fire department will be added at that time. Fire alarm and fire sprinkler plans must be reviewed in the same manner. Review of site plans and subdivision plats for access, fire hydrant water supply, fire alarm, and sprinkler system needs will occur during each subsequent TRC process. A third-party review of building and residential codes may be required at the applicant's expense for all subsequent building permits submitted. The third party must be approved by the Laconia Code Enforcement Department. All completed third-party reviews must be submitted to the Code Enforcement Department for review and approval. Any additional requirements and/or comments from the Code Enforcement Department will be added at that time. Review of site plans and subdivision plats will occur during each subsequent TRC process. And finally, the plan must be submitted to the Planning Department for review and approval. The applicant must complete the plan prior to submitting any development plans for Phase 1. The plan must be completed by no later than September 25th, 2026. If all conditions are not met, nor any extension application filed with the Laconia Planning Department by the completion date, this approval will be null and void.
You have something there, and I may have missed it, because there was a lot there.
Yes.
For the Conservation Board, that they will be going to that before,
So we did not include that in there because they are automatically required to go for any impacts to wetlands or wetland buffers, which they have already identified a significant amount in the plans that they've submitted. So with each phase, they're gonna have to come in and show the impacts to the wetlands or the wetland buffers already.
Would you like us to add a condition that,
I would.
You got it. We will do that.
So noted?
so no,
That they will have to return, they will have to go to the Conservation Commission before final approval from the Planning Board for each subsequent phase.
I think that's fair, and we want to cover up, where is everybody there? I think we want to, okay, one there, one back there. We want to cover all the bases, and we sure don't want anybody to feel like they've been left out. And like we said, the Planning Board really looks to the Conservation Board for their commentary and suggestions. It's very important, so.
Yep.
I'm glad Dean was here tonight to point that out. Okay, so that's noted on there. Any more questions or comments from anybody on the board, including Gail, who I can't see?
Yeah, I do, my hand is up, I don't know if you can see it, Charlie.
Sorry, my bad. I wasn't looking that way.
Okay, sorry. All I want to say is to thank Dean for bringing up some really important points. I'm glad you mentioned that, Charlie, because I was going to mention that. In addition, I don't know who would do this. I don't know how it's done, but I think the gentleman who mentioned the birding and other wildlife there, I wouldn't mind seeing some kind of a wildlife evaluation. I wouldn't have a clue as to who would do that, but I'm sure that there are people within the state of New Hampshire Forestry Division, perhaps, or the Agricultural Division, that would be able to facilitate that. I think it's interesting. I think it'd be nice to know that. And I'm comforted to know that the Conservation Commission is going to have some jurisdiction over this as we go forward.
Well, we know there's thousands of bird watchers out there, so I'm sure that anything they can do to have them come on board will be good too.
I just don't know if there's a place that does those kinds of things. I've never crossed this before.
Okay.
You know, like somebody with the Department of Agriculture or within the state may have better insight to that. Maybe someone on the Conservation Commission could come to the the other thing I could come to staff with some suggestions. The other thing I'm concerned about that hasn't been brought up is I'm concerned that there's some discussion about creating a TIF district there. I would not support that if the school district didn't have some kind of a presidency at that TIF district discussion. And I would really carefully review that contract before it went further.
I can't.
I don't want to belabor it because I haven't seen a contract. I'm just saying that the impact on the school districts is huge. TIF districts can traditionally eliminate school funding from their formulas, and I wouldn't want to see that.
So the TIF district and the creation of a TIF district is out of the realm of the planning board. That is,
You're gonna have to say what, I couldn't understand what she was saying.
so she was debating about whether it was wise or unwise to have a TIF district over this proposed parcel. I believe city council will be taking that up if they decide to take such a thing up. But that's not the planning board that decides.
Oh,
whether there's a TIF
at
district.
this point in time, it's way too early, I think, to,
I think that's a decision city council will ultimately make in their review process, and if that's something that,
yeah, that's not us, so,
that's not us.
okay. Okay, anybody else? I see Councilor Cheney is all ready for that
No.
one, so yeah.
You didn't see anything.
Okay, I can't wait to see what the new name of this is gonna be. Perhaps there'll be a contest, or perhaps not. But in any event, I can't wait. I'll entertain a motion on this. From somebody?
Motion to.
I'll do it, Charlie.
Mike is gonna do it.
I'll move to approve application PB 2025-054 for one right-way path, which includes the conditional use permit for performance zoning and the overall development of the plan for the site, with the findings of fact and conditions of approval as presented in the staff report.
A second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Amy. Any more discussion? Well, I'll just remind everybody again that this is just a very small jump and there's gonna be an awful lot more discussion about this in every one of these projects as they come forward. So pay attention out there, and if you wanna have your comments, you can do it here or at the city council. So please take advantage of that. Okay, we'll go ahead and do the roll call.
Dave Willett.
Yes.
Rich McNeil.
Yes.
Counselor Cheney.
Yes.
Mike Delavecchia.
Yes.
Amy Levisik.
Yes.
And Gail Ober. You're muted.
Sorry, yes.
Okay, that was unanimous, and I thank everybody, and we look forward to hearing and seeing you from you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Walter.
One small step.
Okay, so next on the agenda is,
Nobody wants to stay?
we've already done 8.1, so now we're on 9. This is the Planning Department report. Take it away.
Yeah.
Oh, we got somebody else here?
Oh, no.
She just
I'm
wants to take a
taking
picture of the map.
Oh,
Yeah.
we have one for
We have
her?
a digital copy
Do you have one?
downstairs. If you want us,
Oh,
if
okay.
you want to stop in tomorrow, we can get that to you as
Okay,
well.
very good. Thank
Very
you.
well.
Are you gonna make some copies of what's going on where?
Yeah, we can print out some copies downstairs, and if you guys want to come in tomorrow, give us like at least 30 minutes to print them in the morning, and we'll
No problem.
have them out for you.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, go ahead with the Planning Department report.
Oh, we do have a conceptual this evening
Did
for,
I miss a conceptual? How did I miss that?
it's 8.2.
Gold Street.
I don't see it on here.
We don't have 8.2.
We don't have
I
8.2.
don't have
We
8.2.
have 8.1, and
Oh.
then it goes to 9.
I don't have it on my
Oh,
thing.
probably because it was added.
It was a last minute submission.
Well, how am I supposed to know? So what do you have for us?
So we have a conceptual. It is going to be application PB 2025-073 for 38 Gold Street. It's a conceptual. The applicant is proposing to construct a 8,400 square foot, 4-story boat storage building with the use of performance zoning.
Okay, so were we gonna get a diagram of this or anything? or-
The applicant here is going to,
But should have we had this so we could look at it?
that's, for conceptual, we don't have to,
Okay.
We don't have to provide anything for conceptual.
Apparently not.
but I think it's important for the board to give feedback since they're looking to utilize performance storage.
And this is on Gold Street,
Yes.
which is in Lakeport.
Yes.
Down in the back.
Thank you.
Well, anyway, I stand not corrected because it's not on our agenda here.
So, we apologize for that.
While she's doing that, who
Madam Chair.
determines performance zoning district or?
So,
City council
as long as it was when it was originally adopted, it was adopted, and any parcel that is zoned as urban commercial can utilize performance zoning, and this is where this one falls into. And then it's really up to the planning board if they are in agreement that performance zoning should be used for the specific project. So,
That's what they're
that's
asking
what they're
for.
here for tonight, is to ask if it would be appropriate for them to utilize performance zoning for this project.
Not only just whether or not they can do it, but if you do decide it is worthy of performance zoning, you also should state what those limitations are. Height, unit number, parking requirements.
What you want your
now.
setbacks to be, or
If you decide it's
some
worth it.
vegetation or whatnot, whatever conditions that you think would be appropriate for the project.
So this area that you're discussing, how is that zoned?
It is zoned urban commercial.
It is, so
Yes.
it does fall within.
It does fall within that.
Okay, take it away, kids.
Trying.
We're trying.
Gotta get to it.
And this is why I had an IT here tonight.
I'm sorry, guys. I apologize.
I wonder who the big guy was.
If you wanna,
It's a bouncer.
He's been here a lot lately.
close it and then maybe we can.
So much for IT.
Let me see if I can do this.
We were worried about a rough crowd.
Hey.
Well, with so much
Start
technology
bouncing.
being used tonight in the Zoom aspect and the scope of the projects that were on the meeting, I thought it would be best to have
An expert here.
an expert.
Yes.
I make no claim to be an expert. I wanna make that clear.
All right, is there a way?
More of an expert than Tyler makes me out to be.
this little arrow to the right here,
You guys have to clear
and
that.
connect to the Laconia guest right now.
Do we want to take a recess while we
Do we want to take a 5-minute recess while IT works out?
Not particularly.
Okay.
Okay.
I want to move this meeting along.
Some of us do.
Why don't, you want to just, is your planning report going to be long?
Oh, I can do that. We can
Let's do that
we can move
one.
forward.
I know.
You're going to put up the plan
Gentlemen, we're
report
going to
first.
do the planning department's report right now, so we can move right along.
So, exciting news. Our RFP is posted for the master plan. So, we have what, closing date of?
July 31st.
July 31st?
Yep.
So hopefully by the end of July, we'll have some bids submitted for us so we can review and actually start moving forward on the master plan. So very, very exciting. Also, we had no administrative reviews this month, no minor site plan applications this month. TIF updates. We did seek some more money for the downtown TIF for the streetscape project that we're doing. Thank you, Amy. And for a lighting project for Pumpkin Fest. So that was approved. Our contractor is out working diligently on our streetscape project. We did submit a congressionally delegated spending request for a larger project downtown. We requested 1.5 million, and that was to do an entire lighting project downtown, turn Canal Street into a festival street, and then do lighting in the municipal lots. Security cameras downtown.
Banner poles.
And banner poles.
That was put in by Gene Shaheen,
Yep.
Senator Shaheen.
Yep. So we just found out the other day we made a second round at least. We did not get the 1.5 million. We are only getting 300,000 if it gets approved with the federal budget. But that's going forward to phase 2. So we're very excited about that.
Can I ask you a question? When you refer to Canal Street, what did you refer to it as?
We're looking to make it a festival street.
So an event's basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And that doesn't close the street permanently, it's just when you're doing certain events.
right. So what we kind of talked about with the TIF district at the meetings is kind of doing like bollards at the road, so we could actually shut the road down to vehicle traffic for the safety aspect of having festivals out there.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like you
But
do
it wouldn't
now.
be permanent, but you could
Like you do now.
Yeah.
like we do now. Yep. It just make it safer, with everything that goes on with in today's world. It just
Okay.
makes it, a better
Okay.
place for events.
Anything else for the department?
We've had a lot of variances go through or variance requests for signs. So zoning board has asked if we make that a higher priority to rewrite our sign ordinance that we have.
Okay.
So hopefully in the next meeting or couple meetings, we'll redo the sign ordinance. And I think that's about it.
You mentioned Pumpkin Fest. Do we have the dates on that? Because I see stickers everywhere, but no dates.
October 25th.
October 25th. Okay, thank you.
It'll be a very festive day.
It'll be a
Will
smashing.
be very
event.
festive.
Well, just checking, because like I said, there's stickers out there with no dates.
No
and
smashing.
people have been
No
asking.
smashing pumpkins.
Okay, I think we can, that's it. Thank you very much for the planning department report. I think you're up, kid. I say kid, everybody, sorry, ma'am.
No worries. Appreciate it, actually. So I'm Cindy Terrio with Wilcox and Barton here on behalf of Blizzard Inc. In Lakeport Landing. The proposal is to build a currently vacant lot, to build a 4-story boat
Can you
storage.
speak right into the mic?
Yep.
Can you pull it towards you? It's just hard to, thank you.
Sure. The proposal is to build a 4-story boat storage building on a currently vacant lot in, right on the corner of Railroad Ave and Gold Street, which is next to the church, down by Lakeport Landing. And across the street towards the lake is another, is under the same ownership. It's another marina under the same ownership. So
Same ownership?
Yeah,
That would be building this?
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Can you point to the church? It's just hard for me to see that. Can you point to the church?
This is the church. This here is the
O-
church.
Okay.
This is also church property. It's a little house there, little white house there currently.
And it's gonna be 4-story? And how high is the church, technically?
I don't know
Steeple?
how high the steeple is at the
Must
church.
be at least 6 stories or something.
I have no clue.
Counselor, do you know how tall that church steeple is?
I haven't a clue.
Okay, thank you.
Tall.
I just want to make sure this isn't blocking that from the side, that you'll still be able to see some of it.
Right, so the railroad's here, and then, Union Ave is off to this side. So this, and actually there's buildings here along Union Ave that,
And is that a flat roof or a pitched roof?
we don't have the architecturals yet, so we're still figuring that all out.
Would you be storing things on top of the roof?
No,
Okay.
I mean, maybe utilities, but I don't even think so. She doesn't want water, she doesn't need sewer, there's no bathrooms in there proposed. It's literally for boats, to
Storage.
go in and out for boats.
So have electricity for lights?
Electricity for lights, correct. Yeah. And so the idea is to have the access from Railroad Ave, and all of the boats would be stored here and here. So the center area would be for turning and maneuvering of the boats. So all the activity would be inside the building.
And how many boats would that hold, do you think, on each floor?
We
Potentially.
she hasn't laid out the plans quite yet. The idea was to basically come forth and maximize the site so that she'd like relief from the setbacks from this setback to the rear, and then from the front, if you will, here. And then stormwater and landscaping would go to the north and the south of the building.
And behind that, when you go on the river, where's the river on that?
Up here. So this is also Lakeport Landing
Okay,
land. There's currently a marina that's there as well. And that's 1/3 of an acre or something like that. And then the river's beyond that.
there'll be what?
The river is beyond that,
Beyond that?
yeah, to the north.
Any other questions from anybody? You must have some questions.
I have a question
I
for
need to
staff.
see where I am.
Rich, can you lean forward to the thing?
I have a question for staff. Let's go back in the history books. Is everything complete for the planning board for their previous approval for the original building?
Are you, for their, are you referring to the property,
It was formerly the firehouse?
formerly the firehouse? I believe they have landscaping to complete.
Okay.
So this is a conceptual, so they'll have to come back, correct?
Yes.
Yes, they would have to come back. I think that the board should give them feedback.
Well, that's what we're trying to do here.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah, you're not voting tonight on it.
I realize that. I'm just, the big thing is height, and if it's blocking for, for other residents or buildings in the area who may feel that that might be too tall for their site, that's why I asked where the river was, et cetera, to make sure it's not blocking anything. And we certainly may have concerns from the church if it's too high for what, we don't want them blocking, whether it's sunlight or whatever. I mean, these are all just questions that are gonna come up.
Sure.
I think they're valid questions from property owners. I know there's a need for boat storage, obviously.
I
Doors-
would not be
doors-
in favor of the
Setback.
that's the word I'm looking for, thank you guys.
Setback from,
Setbacks.
from,
From, both the front and the side, it sounds like, or the back and the side.
Front and rear.
Well, so, right, this is Gold Street,
of
this
it?
is Railroad. No,
so you're saying the setback's not enough from,
I would not be in favor of such
There-
tight setbacks.
But you're looking for a variance on the setbacks, correct?
well, it's in the performance district, so we would discuss it within that.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So they would get the approval because it's in performance zoning, correct? If we don't let them know.
So essentially, in this case, they would not need to seek a variance. They're gonna come before planning board, and it's up to you guys to decide whether or not, what's acceptable for the setbacks. So they have demonstrated what their current requirements are on their plan. If you think that exceeding those or exceeding it by that much is, not gonna work, then you need to let us know that, and you need to let the applicant know that. And that way they know when they do submit an application, what they need to be submitting for the board to really consider.
Charlie, if I could?
Go ahead.
So you're looking potentially the setback on the front and the back is what we're discussing, correct? Can you point out on the diagram where the church property is again?
The church is here to the south. This is the church.
Okay, and you said that they owned another parcel, the church owned another
The
parcel?
church also owns this little property here.
Okay,
There's a little house on that land. But this is the church's driveway currently.
okay, and that is part of where the setback is in
It's on that.
question.
Can you see that if I zoom
Yeah,
in?
thank you.
So this is the property line, this black dashed line is a property line, so the church's driveway is basically on it. The setbacks in this zone are, is it 5 feet? 5 feet from the property line?
And 5 feet for a 4-story building is, to do any type of maintenance, you would have to be on your abutter's property. I think that would be a concern that I would have. You know, you're talking, how do you even do maintenance on a building when you have a 5-foot setback unless you're on the adjacent property owner's property? And that would be a concern that I would have. The stormwater you said to the north and to the south, what exactly would that pertain? What would that consist of?
We haven't designed it yet. I mean, typically in something like this, it would have to be underground storage, most likely, to handle any of the impervious area that's not currently there.
Right, because
So it'd be
you'd have
storage.
a lot of water coming off that roof,
We
potentially.
don't, we don't know what the water table is yet. I mean, it's all very
Okay.
conceptual, but it'd be underground storage or infiltration, maybe a combination of both.
All right, thank you.
So the only way to make a greater setback would be to shrink the size of the building? Is that what we're talking about here?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a square property. It's, as you can see, it's sort of a trapezoid.
Yep.
So fitting a square building on a trapezoid just, it's the best we can do.
Okay, Counselor?
Yeah.
I would like to remind this board, and certainly with no intention to question or speak badly about the young lady who's here testifying, but back years ago, Councilman Baldock, when the fire station was being sold to this applicant, asked that the fire tower be maintained. The architect said it couldn't be maintained for some reason, but that the tower on the front would be painted brick red to symbolize. If there's anybody on this board that hasn't been by there, it's black. And when the previous planning director was asked to speak to the applicant about why it wasn't red, the answer was, nothing's in writing. So whatever happens here, I beg the staff to make sure every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and they're required to sign everything. I don't want a piece of grass that they say they'll put in, and I don't mean you, young lady.
I wasn't here for that, so.
Thank you. If they say they're gonna put grass in, I want it in writing.
Yep.
And if they say they're gonna have a door here, I want it in writing, because I don't have a lot of faith that we won't have a reoccurrence of, yeah, I'll do it, and show me where it's in writing.
Well, I
And
know.
by the way, I agree with Amy and my other member, Dave, that with the issues that they've proposed.
Well, I would make note of that, then, that the setbacks could be a real problem here. And with regards to what the counselor said about having things signed, I have total assurance that that's being done with all the paperwork that goes over the desk down there, the counter. But that's nothing wrong with pointing that out again.
If I could just add, since this is the planning board's opportunity, the planning department does have a concern with the parking request of this as well, as they're proposing no parking for a storage building. There's always a need for parking in this, and in this area, there is no parking. I think that we should be cognizant of that there is no parking available.
So the parking would be needed when somebody's, brings their boat there, wait a minute,
So there's a parking requirement for boat storage.
There
It's, and that, it's very limited, but I think it's very important.
okay, so it's a limited parking area, because, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking that the marina is the one that's picking up these boats from wherever and then bringing them to the storage facility? So who would be parking there? Just people that maybe come to check on their boat or something, therefore it's only a limited amount of space. Do you know what that space is?
Oh, let me look it up here.
Well, in any event, make sure that they're aware of that.
Sure. So I do have one question around that. Could we use if we could show that there's space on some of the other properties that they own in the neighborhood, would we be able to use that as counting towards the parking requirement?
Yes, so that is a CUP, and that's in the zoning ordinance that we do allow that. I think it would be very important, and the same requirement we hold on everybody that does a CUP for the off-site parking is we need a table that shows the available parking that meets the requirement for each of the lots to make sure that there's available parking spots to meet the need that is.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
But that's not a given.
No, that's a conditional use permit that the planning board can approve or not approve. The same as for the performance zoning aspect of that as well.
If you go down there in the summertime and see the parking issue, we shouldn't add to that. And the bouncer agrees with me.
What does the board think of 4 stories though, right there? I think that's high.
The building around the corner, I believe, is 59 feet tall.
The one we're referring to, the old fire station is 59?
I think 51.
No, around the corner, they
There's
got
another
another
one
boat
there.
storage building.
Gotcha.
That is
Can't miss it.
59 feet tall,
That doesn't mean we have to keep doing it, though.
and I agree.
Thank you.
You know, we approved those at Weir's Beach.
Not me.
That was BA before Amy.
Well, we had no choice because the performance zone allowed them to go to 60 feet.
Well, we're saying here that we don't have to do it, so we didn't have to do it then. That's what the director said.
So, within UC, the maximum height without requesting any deviation or any relief is 60 feet. So there's probably little control over the height, since they're legally allowed to go to 60 feet.
If they were looking to go above that, then you guys could
You
limit
just
it
said
to.
that we can either show our approval to that or not, whatever the height is, so.
So for their performance zoning, for their CUP, for any relief that they're seeking, we can make recommendations on that, but the zoning requirement, the zoning allows for 60 feet.
By right.
I thought you said at the beginning.
In the UC.
I thought you said that we could go along with the performance zoning or not.
You can.
Okay, then that,
But what he's saying is, in the zone that it's in right now, the urban commercial, they can go up to 60.
They're seeking relief by using performance zoning for the CUP for the setbacks and for the parking.
okay.
So any of those 2 requirements are within your realm of what you would want to.
I think it's in the eyes of hopefully of every developer to try to make everybody around this table as happy as they can, because, again, we're not here for our personal thoughts, it's more for the residents of the city that we're representing, and so.
Absolutely. And part of performance zoning is also architectural standards. If there are design elements that you want, you can require them.
Okay.
Now, we have to require them now?
You don't have to require them now, but you can make a recommendation.
Because, I mean, this is new, and we had no idea to think about all this, and
Well, but we're making remarks. Dennis, go ahead.
Dave,
Dave, I'm sorry.
flashback.
Yeah.
Rob, if I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, they could potentially use parking spaces outside where this structure is to meet the required parking spots.
With a CUP for off-site parking, yes.
So potentially, they could have no parking spaces where this structure is. I have a problem with that because, for the obvious, I mean, people are gonna come to this, city official comes to this business for a particular reason. Where do they park? 200 feet down the road at their designated parking, that there may or may not be parking spaces if it's July 4th weekend. I have a concern with that.
No, and
I would want it noted.
Absolutely want to make sure that we're highlighting all of our concerns.
I have one more question. Interior parking's okay. We could have parking spaces inside the building.
Available to the public?
What?
Would it be available to the public?
Will it be available to the people that are using the boat? Does it need to be available to the public?
No, I wouldn't think so.
I don't think we specifically say whether that has to be outside or inside.
I think fire and life safety code and building code are gonna come into play with that, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We'd have to talk to the fire department and see if they would even be amenable to that.
But as far as the zoning
Yeah,
ordinance.
yeah, as far as the zoning ordinance goes, I don't think that, we don't have anything that specifies, so.
Okay, any other comments from anybody? Do you have any other questions?
No, we just wanted your feedback before we came in officially.
You think you got some
so-
good feedback?
Yes,
to work
thank
with?
you.
Okay,
I do
that's good.
appreciate it.
Okay, then we'll close this one out and move along. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course, I've put all my stuff aside. What do we got there next on the agenda? Just this list, thank you. Okay. 9.11 TRC draft minutes.
Oh, that's just gee whiz for you to look at.
Okay. Liaison reports, city council.
I don't have a report, but I would like to suggest we give some consideration to looking in a Zoom, which the city council uses routinely, and no reason
We
they
used
would
to
show.
do it here. Yeah, we
I
used
was
to.
suggesting we
Oh,
do
oh.
it going forward.
We used to do it here. We did. But I don't plan on doing it next month, so. Okay, Lakes Region Planning Commission.
We just had our annual meeting. What was that? A couple weeks ago, last week. And so they're not going to meet until the fall. I think we have one more executive board meeting next week, but we did notify them about the Laconia Village project because this
The what?
is the one that you
The what?
the former state school site. The
Thank
project
you.
proposed for the former state
Thank
school
you.
site.
Still waiting for its marketing campaign.
Yes.
Let's fix that right now, please. Okay, go ahead.
And so anyways, we notified them per state law, because it is a development of regional impact as approved by the planning, or as determined by the planning board's policy. What was it from last year that you guys had approved? So, so we did notify them of that. I'm trying to think. Anything else really from LRPC?
Nope.
I think that's about it.
Okay, that was the Lakes Region and the Conservation Commission? Anybody?
The Conservation Commission is working on an updated checklist, and they would like to propose some changes to the wetland buffers. I think that they're looking to do a presentation to planning board in the near future. So I'm sure we'll hear from them shortly.
Okay, Historical District Commission, nothing on that because we haven't done anything yet with that still.
No, as soon as we make some time to sit down, we'll.
Okay. Okay, that brings us to other business. Now, I think we had talked earlier about having a agenda line here for matters not on the agenda for the public to talk about anything they wanted to talk about. Not that we would be voting on anything, but just to hear people out. And that's not on the agenda tonight, but we are going to get that back on at the chair's request for the next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, without objection from anybody. That's just a, for people. So with that being said, we've got,
So,
if I can finish, we got a couple out here that just have some comments and stuff. Nothing to be done but listen, and then we can, because I told them they could, and I'm baying to just have them come here and then say, well, it was not on the agenda. And Rob, you can chime in on this. again, this is just like what the city council does. People come before the council, they talk about something they want to talk about. The council sits and listens, very rarely comments, and then, or we'll just say, well, you want to take that concern to this department or that department, and it's just kind of like a matter of public record. And I don't see any problem with that at all.
So I just want to be very, very clear.
Mhm.
Planning board has no enforcement ability.
Absolutely.
And legally, this could end up getting us in trouble if we start talking about projects
Nope.
that are not on the agenda or properties that are not on the agenda.
Well, we're not
And
gonna
making
make
any accusations or allegations.
Yep.
So I just want to be very, very clear with the planning board that this is not what this forum should be used for.
Again, whether it's a development or something that's come before the board, and somebody in the public is saying, hey, by the way, we're not happy with this, or this is not being performed right, in this case, it's a water runoff. Again.
And I also want to highlight, legal says this is not a good idea.
A good idea. But in speaking to some other people, is saying that it's not a bad idea. And again, I would say that all we're gonna do is hear it and then not say a word. Right? Unless I see the counselor shaking his head, unless you guys object to it. I think it's a chance for the public to see that the city government's working and
My submission to you, Mr. Chairman, is that if people have concerns, they should see the planning department, express them, and ask to be heard, which can be done at the very next meeting. But I would be very reluctant to get involved in.
Well, I don't want to get involved. I just thought it's a chance for somebody to just say something that they're concerned about something, and we say thank you, and then we just say, take your concerns. Look at that face on Tyler. We just say, take your concerns to this department or that department or to the city council. So, go ahead, Amy.
Why wouldn't we take our attorney's?
I can't hear you. What, was that me doing that? No. Go ahead. He's trying to block you out. Go ahead, Amy.
I'm concerned that if we don't take the attorney's suggestions and we get ourselves in legal trouble, why would we start that?
I'm not sure that I would.
Well, the chairman would have to accept the responsibility.
Yeah.
Pay the legal fees
We're literally,
and go to jail.
we're
But I don't-
literally being told that our
Vice chair,
attorneys suggest we not do this. Why would we proceed to do it?
I make a motion that we decline to accept for items not on the agenda, item on our agenda.
There's a second to that?
I would second that.
Okay, so it's open for discussion. Again, I just say that I think it's good city government, and we approve a lot of projects in here, and if somebody's unhappy with the way something's performing, and they want to tell us as a board, all I'm saying is that, okay, thank you very much, and then make sure you take your concerns to the department downstairs who does a good job, or this, and that's it. And I don't see how that becomes a legal problem. I really
Shouldn't that be
don't.
an issue for either code enforcement or DPW? If it's-
That's right, and that's what and maybe they just want to be heard publicly, and I don't see a problem with that. You know, if I have a problem and I have to go down, and I do go downstairs and say something to code enforcement, and maybe something happens or not, but I would also like go to the city council, or in this case, the planning board, just say, this is an issue I'm having, just wanted you to know, and then move along. I don't personally see where that's a problem. It kind of, you know, I think the more city government, and we are part of city government here, I think the more open it is to hearing people talk, whether they're legitimate complaints or just off-the-wall complaints or out-of-space complaints, it gives the citizens a chance to just say what they want to say, and then we don't touch it. I'm not saying we're going to take this up and we're going to make a decision right now and we're going to reinvestigate this, or I demand to see these property owners. We're not doing that. We're just giving the citizens a chance to say what they want to say about something, and then that's it. And I really think that's good.
Move the question, Mr. Chairman.
Non-debatable. Okay. All in favor of not having that?
I have to do a roll call. I will say Gail has logged off, but I'm I think we should still do a roll call.
We still have quorum here.
So, Dave Willett?
Can you just rehash what I'm voting on, just so I'm clear, because I'm a
So
little
the-
bit head spun right now?
Counselor, I don't know if you want to.
We would not have a item on the agenda for comments on items
Not
not
on
on
the
the agenda.
But haven't we already heard something tonight that wasn't on the agenda?
No, it was submitted to the agenda appropriately.
All right. I vote no,
We can't, no, this
I would
not,
vote
no,
on-
no.
You
I
had,
would vote-
you had mentioned about trying to get on the
No,
agenda.
no, please.
I have an email that we were denied to be on the agenda.
Yeah, but that's okay, so anyway,
So the motion is that the
So we're not going to add
a
an
line item.
for
that-
citizens to comment on matters not on the agenda.
And my feeling is that
Discussion amongst the board.
We've already moved a question.
the question's been moved, so we can't do that. So it's yes or no?
no.
I'm confused on,
So if you vote yes, we are not adding the item.
I vote yes.
Yes,
No.
Rich?
I voted yes.
I know. You did vote?
yes.
Oh, what did you, I didn't hear what you
Yes.
said.
Yes.
So a yes is not to do it.
A yes is not to add the
And a
item.
no is to,
A no is to add the item.
okay.
I'm a yes.
Well,
Poll the
I,
jury.
3 to
sorry?
2.
Poll the jury.
I can't.
It's 3 to 2,
I
the
can't
motion
break a
carries.
tie,
So we are not
there's
adding
no
the
tie
item to the
break.
agenda.
Okay, so that vote was
3 to 2.
3 to 2.
3 to, wait a second, wait a second. I
You can vote, and it does not carry because it's not the
Wait,
majority.
wait. The voting right now is 3 to 2, so I can vote.
You can, but it's not going to carry the, there's no
No, it won't
tiebreaker.
carry, but it kills it, because it's a tie. Yeah. So I'm gonna vote no.
But it doesn't mean it allows it either.
Correct.
No, that means that motion you just made was not approved, so that opens it back up. So again, I really don't see why, where the harm is in this. I really don't, and I understand.
I would suggest that you review your law degree and sit with the other lawyers and answer these questions, but, look, I feel bad about these folks sitting here, I really do. But, I should ought to, yeah. But I've seen the problems that can create.
At the council?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
I haven't seen that. I just,
Well,
they get 3 minutes to speak normally, and then they say their thing, and then they go on.
okay.
Well, we can, if it's gonna end up being a tie, we can certainly
Bring it up.
table this I would prefer to table it to September, because I won't be here for the next meeting, and I would,
Get it on the agenda for next month.
I don't know what he said, but,
Can we get out of here?
hey, listen, now, darn it.
Hey, listen,
Yeah, so let's,
can I ask a question?
yeah, we're
You
gonna.
told these people they could come in tonight.
They wanted to talk about this, and I said at that time, I said, we have a line on here for matters not on the agenda. Unbeknownst to me, it was pulled off. I was not aware that had happened.
Okay.
So that's why I
What?
told you could come in and speak on this, on matters
No,
not on the
no,
agenda.
there is no line item for that.
Yeah,
Nor
but
has there
I was
been.
under you're absolutely right, there's not now, but I was
Correct.
under the impression that it had been. put
Because
on.
under the rules of procedure for planning board, there is no such line item. If you wanted to add that line item, you would have to edit the rules of procedure for the planning board.
Rules from who?
Your rules that
No,
you
no,
guys approved.
rules that we approved here, or that the city
Correct.
approved?
No, that you approved.
Okay,
last
so I
July.
asked that that be added, so we would have had to vote on that here?
No, well, you'd have to amend your rules of procedure to make sure that's a permanent line item to add at a later date.
We want to add this as an agenda item to discuss in the future.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. So then we will schedule this for the September meeting, so you can be present for that.
But I'm just, okay, so obviously, it wasn't clear in my head that wasn't gonna happen. I was under the impression it was happening. So that's why I
I
told.
understand that,
Okay.
Charlie, and I apologize to them profusely. Would you please see to it that they have an opportunity?
Yes.
To come in and speak?
To
Through the-
to downstairs,
To the planning board?
Yes.
No, no.
already did that.
No.
Okay.
To the board.
We already talked
You
about
mean
it.
to the department or to us here?
Oh, us here.
Okay.
So, so the,
Do that.
so the planning board has no jurisdiction for the item that they're talking about.
Can you tell us what the,
So they have an issue with a development that abuts their property. The abutting property meets all of the conditions outlined in their site plan. They're doing everything their site plan required them to do. They have an issue with that site plan and what issues they are relaying about it. I have relayed to them that it is a civil matter between the developer and their property. And the city does not get involved in civil matters, and that the planning board is not an enforcement arm. And since this is a civil matter, they need to take civil action through an attorney in the courts.
could we suggest to code enforcement, they at least look at it?
So we have looked at it and we have evaluated it, and they meet all of their requirements that were in conditions that were in their site plan approval.
What a joke.
So that's what exactly how it would have ended tonight had this been.
Which is exactly why I highly suggested that this not be brought to planning board.
But there's things that have not been done that you guys approved.
Okay, but that,
I can testify to that.
so if I can just say that in fact is a civil matter where you can get somebody to represent you guys and go after the city,
Oh, I will.
for that, okay,
I'll have my attorney get a hold of the city.
all right.
You bet I will.
The city is not involved in this. It is
Yeah,
a
they
civil
are.
ma-
You guys approved this plan, and the plan has failed.
Okay,
That-
so-
That pond is not even functional right now.
Okay, so please, again, thank you,
Come on, Don.
okay,
Come on, Don, we're
Yeah,
done.
1 second.
all right, so,
I was just a little concerned because when they inspected, I was told by Scott Pelchat that they were going to write up a report. And I said, when can I get my hands on the
okay,
report?
but again, that, you've got to,
But there's no report.
But
We're being
we
told
can't do
there's no
anything
written
about that.
report.
All
So
right.
we could even see what the conservation officer saw for damages. So how do we even, if they thought it was worthy enough to come out and inspect, why is there no written
Okay.
report? That's my concern.
all right,
And Mr. Pelchat said he was submitting a written report to the planning department, but Rob Morris says there's no written report. So I'm confused, and I was hoping to be unconfused.
well, not by us, all we would've done was listen what you've already gotten through you, but again, Rob's right, if it's a civil matter, you get an attorney and then just go after them in the city.
But I'm not sure how it's a civil matter if they're still under site plan
Well,
review
talk to
and
an-
the city
talk
has
to an-
an engineer and something's failing.
Okay, but talk to an attorney about that, they'll be happy to hear you on that, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Okay,
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Yep. So, they kinda made a case for what Rob and Tyler was saying could happen here, so now
Yeah.
that lesson well learned there.
Bing, bada
But,
boom.
yeah.
Which is exactly why I said this
Yeah,
should
but
not
that-
be on
that-
the agenda.
But that,
Is
okay,
that the Sunrise condo?
Let's
Let's
not
not-
discuss
yes, please.
this. Let's
yeah.
Please.
finish the meeting as it's supposed to be intended.
Is there anything on the agenda next?
But again,
Can we
again,
adjourn this
Please.
meeting?
no, Tyler, I'm just saying, it was a point well made there, so it's all good.
Okay.
It's all good. Okay, any other business?
No.
Okay, a motion to
I make a motion to
adjourn?
adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay,
Beat ya.
all in favor?
Dave Willett?
Okay,
Yes.
You
thank
don't,
you.
you don't need to do that.
Paul the jury.
You don't need a roll call.
He
End
called the
me-
vote, but we'll end it.
Just end the meeting.
Well, we don't need a roll call.
You don't need a roll call to adjourn the meeting.
No,
that-
but you called the vote,
And
so.
she's not here anyway, so.